The Bald Oncologist podcast series, featuring Dr. Malwonder.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Bald Oncologist podcast series. This is a special and unfortunately it is also our last. But before we get sentimental, let's dive into something exciting today. We'll be discussing a groundbreaking advancement in cancer care, which is the multi-cancer early detection test. Today in our studio, we have Dr. Syaiddi, who's a senior manager in Premier Integrated Lab. Welcome, Dr. Syaiddi.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Okay, so Dr. Syaiddi, I wanted to discuss a little bit with you about blood tests to detect cancer. So we all know that tumor markers is actually a hopeless blood test. It is not recommended for doing cancer screening with it. But there's something called multi-cancer early detection test. Can you explain what is it actually?
Okay, multi-cancer early detection test is a testing, or we call it as a short MCED. So this testing and detecting a circulating tumor cell in the blood. Okay. So we can use a blood sample and we can detect the circulating tumor cell or circulating tumor DNA in the plasma. So it's very sensitive. It can detect very early as stage 1 cancer.
Okay. So it's just a blood test, just like how you go for a normal clinic, take your blood test. And then how long does it take to get this full report normally?
Okay, the report usually takes about a week, and sometimes it can be about 2 weeks, but it depends on the testing itself.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very sensitive and very fast. So most average is actually 7 a week report.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the kind of cancers which we can detect? Is it like common cancers or is like every single cancer?
Okay, actually it's been studied for all type of cancer, but there are certain common cancer that can detect more sensitive. Okay. But it's been continuous study, all the cancer can be used for the multi-cancer early detection.
Okay, so is it like very pricey or is like cheap like tumor markers test?
Wow. That is very difficult question because this is an early test with using advanced technology. You remember during COVID time, the test is expensive, but now it becomes so cheap.
Correct.
So we are doing the same thing. So multi-cancer early detection cost is actually now is around 3,000, around that. But we are going to reduce we try to reduce the price as cheap as 1,000 if possible.
Oh, okay, that's good. So how does this test actually, how do we do it actually? So if I take a blood test, I send it to the lab. What's the technology behind it to detect all of this early circulating tumor DNA?
Okay, the technology we use is very advanced, but one of the testing done, we use a PCR also to amplify the circulating tumor cells. And then we use next generation sequencing to identify this, what is the best, the marker specific to the cancer. So we can detect, even though it's 0.1% or 0.2%, it can detect early.
So it uses a next generation sequencing, just like how we do for like stage 4 cancers and all.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So any other things which is in the horizon from circulating tumor DNA, about NGS, is there something new coming up or is still just checking your blood and then you can know all the cancers already?
Currently, we are doing it for multi-cancer early detection is part of it, but it also from other perspectives. So the circulating tumor DNA can be used for monitoring purposes. Yeah, so that's the advantage of the technology. You can use same technology, but it also can use for the other type of cancer, other monitoring cases.
So like for example, I have a colon cancer patient. So after surgery, normally how we monitor a patient is like they come back to the doctor, we do a physical checkup, we go for their scope, and then sometimes we do tumor marker test if the marker was raised initially. But if it's not raised initially, we don't do a cancer marker test at all. So I can actually use this NGS as minimal residual disease to check whether there's any cancer recurrence.
Yes, that's correct. Because based on that, we already have a marker to identify the circulating tumor cells or circulating tumor DNA in the blood itself.
So do we need to do it before the surgery or can we do it after the surgery also at the baseline test?
The baseline test is actually because it's called as a monitoring. We prefer after the surgery, and also for monitoring purposes, whether patient going to the cancer will be recurrent or not. So we use that testing to monitor the test.
So this is like Like every 3 months, 6 months, or how often we need to do this monitoring test?
So it's recommended to do about 3 months or 6 months because we know that this is a period that the cancer can recur. So yeah, that's a recommendation, but it also depend on the clinician and also how they see whether it can see by a scan whether the patient the new tumor or recurrence or not. But to be rest assured, the circulating tumor DNA is more sensitive than the imaging itself.
Correct. You see, because it's much more earlier than before. It's shown on a CT scan or PET scan. So what about the cancer screening? Like for MRD, you do every 3 months. Cancer screening, who do we do it for actually? What age group? How often do we do for those kind of people?
Okay. So for multi-cancer early detection, this is for screening. So actually the same you can do as early as actually even you are younger age, so especially like 15 and above or 25 and above. So actually you can start screening because sometimes you can see even now breast cancer by 15 years old you already get breast cancer.
Correct.
So you can start as early as 15, so you can do a screening, but it depends on how frequent you are doing. So every 1 year you need to do the screening because this is an early screening. So it can detect early, but you also need to follow up with imaging and other testing for confirmation.
Okay, so for part of cancer screening, we can do this MCED test.
Yes.
But we still need to do like our mammogram, ultrasound, colonoscope, pap smear to detect the early cancers.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we can detect something microscopic and probably there's something macroscopic which don't shed the DNA, so we might not detect from the blood test also. Yeah, okay. That's all about MCED, Multiple Cancer Early Detection Test. Thank you, Mr. Syaiddi, for being in our show today.
Thank you so much.
This may be the final episode of the Born Oncologist podcast series, but it is certainly not the end of the road. I truly hope this podcast has empowered each and every one of you. Now, the question remains, is there a season 2 in the cards? Well, that depends on you. If you love to see the Born Oncologist podcast series return, be sure to leave a comment and let me know. Until then, stay healthy, stay informed, and remember, you are stronger than you think.
The Bald Oncologist podcast series